The great Buddhist commentator Acharya Buddhaghosa explains the word Abhidhamma as meaning that which exceeds and is distinguished from the Dhamma. Dhamma tireka, Dhamma visesa. The prefix Abhi having the sense of preponderance and distinction, and Dhamma here signifying the teaching of the Sutta Pitaka. When the Abhidhamma is said to surpass the teaching of the suttas, this is not intended to suggest that the sutta teaching is defective in any degree or that the Abhidhamma proclaims some new revelation of esoteric doctrine unknown to the suttas. But the suttas and the Abhidhamma are grounded upon the Buddha's unique doctrine of the Four Noble Truths, and all the principles essential to the attainment of the enlightenment are already expounded in the Sutta Pitaka. The difference between the two in no way concerns fundamentals, but is rather partly a matter of scope and partly a matter of method. As to scope, the Abhidhamma offers a thoroughness and completeness of treatment that cannot be found in the Sutta Pitaka. Acharya Buddhaghosa explains that in the suttas such doctrinal categories as the 5 aggregates, the 12 sense bases, the 18 elements and so forth are classified only partly, while in Abhidhamma Pitaka they are classified fully according to different schemes of classification. Some canon, some common to suttas, some unique to the Abhidhamma. Thus the Abhidhamma has a scope and an intricacy of detail that set it apart from the Sutta Pitaka. The other major arena of difference concerns method. The discourses contained in the Sutta Pitaka were expounded by the Buddha under diverse circumstances to listeners with very different capacities for comprehension. They are primarily pedagogical in intent, set forth in the way that will be most effective in guiding the listener in the practice of the teaching and in arriving at the penetration of its truth. To achieve this end, the Buddha freely employs the didactic means required to make the doctrine intelligible to his listeners. He uses simile and metaphor. He exhorts devices and inspires. He seizes up the inclinations and aptitudes. He sizes up the inclinations and aptitudes of his audience and adjusts the presentation of the teaching so that it will awaken a positive response. For these reasons, the Suttanta method of teaching is described as Pariyaya Dhamma Desana, the figurative or embellished discourse in Dhamma. In contrast to suttas, the Abhidhamma Pitaka is intended to divulge as starkly and directly as possible the totalistic system that underlies the suttana expositions and upon which the individual discourses draw. The Abhidhamma takes no account of the personal inclinations of cognitive capacities of the listeners. It makes no concessions to particular pragmatic requirements. It reveals the architectonics. It reveals the architectonics of actuality in an abstract, formalistic manner, utterly devoid of literacy, embellishments, and pedagogical expedience. Thus, the Abhidhamma method is described as the Pariyaya Dhamma Desana, the literal or unembellished discourse on the Dhamma. The difference in technique between the two methods also influences the respective terminologies. In the suttas, the Buddha regularly makes use of conventional language, voharavachana, and accepts conventional truth, sammuti sacca. Truth expressed in terms of entities that do not possess ontological ultimacy, but can still be legitimately referred to them. Thus, in the suttas, the Buddha speaks of I and you, of man and woman, of living beings, persons, and even self as though they were concrete realities. The Abhidhamma method of exposition, however, rigorously restricts itself to terms that are valid from the standpoint of ultimate truth. Paramattha Satcha. Dhammas, their characteristics, their functions and their relations. Thus, in the Abhidhamma, all such conceptual entities provisionally accepted in the suttas for purposes of meaningful communication are resolved into their ontological ultimates, into bare mental and material phenomena that are impermanent, conditioned, and dependently arisen, empty of any abiding self or substance. But a qualification is necessary. When the distinction is drawn between the two methods, this should be understood to be based on what is most characteristic of each Pitaka, and should not be interpreted as an absolute dichotomy. To some degree, the two methods overlap and interpenetrate. Thus, in the Sutta Pitaka, we find discourses that employ the strictly philosophical terminology of aggregates, sense bases, elements, etc., and thus come within the bounds of the Abhidhamma method. Again, within the Abhidhamma Pitaka, we find sections, even a whole book, the Puggala Pannati, that depart from the rigorous manner of expression and employ conventional terminology, thus coming within the range of the Suttanta method.